Hello, welcome back to another week of the European Tour picks and bets. We're on Mayo Media Network. Skylar, Hoke coming at you here. Tom, how's it going?
Oh, I'm ready for this week. I think we've been ready for this week since probably about week two of the season. Once I found out, I mean, I pretty much knew you were a Guido fan anyway, but once I found out it was true love, then we kind of look forward to this week for since then.
It's true. I have the best I can do. I kind of have my Tiger Woods Sunday red on here, but supporting the Italian Open for this week. I mean, this is as big as it gets. They say the Masters, might be the greatest tournament in the world. Some might say the Italian Open. But excited really for the week. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk through the Omega European Masters, where I felt like we were the smartest people alive through 18 holes.
I
James
mean,
Morrison opens with a 60, doesn't shoot
I,
into the 60s the rest of the week. I'm shocked.
I thought we were great after 18. I thought we were great after 36. We were in good position. I thought after 54, I had Sean Crocker in first. I had Shabonka Sharma we had in three shots behind. Well, he blew that after six holes, didn't they? Or four holes. So six over through four. I mean, what do you do with that? I mean, it it was painful, but I felt like the process was correct, which I guess you trust the process. I don't know. That's what they say in sport, isn't it?
They do,
Um,
and I feel it's almost been the last few months. We went on that heater, leading up to the Open Championship, and then the last few weeks have not, shook out the way as we'd love to have it. But I think we are throwing the correct darts at the board at the end, and just hoping, we find hot. If you look into who actually placed the best of the selections last week, we might have had the sneakiest top 10 he's had, with Guido Migliozzi finishing in seventh place last week. So heating up at the correct time.
yeah, absolutely. And surely Sean Crocker's going to win at some point. I know we've been talking about this on and off today. I spoke about him on the podcast at length that, I kind of fully believe he's the next guy that's going to come and get this win. And it made me laugh when I was typing up the newsletter earlier. I saw the likes of Martin Keimer, Thomas Dietrich, both in the top 10 in strokes going putting last week. And I saw Sergio Garcia, Tony Finau in strokes going putting on the PGA Tour. So it happens, right? It's going to come. It's just going to be down to a certain putting surface going to suit him. And it's going to happen. So you can't back him just whatever, we're going to skip past all the original things and just go straight on him. But it, I think we always say, and I try to say, I'm just going to look for him in another tournament. It's going to be 60, 80 to 1 in one of the season ending events, and it will look great. I mean, we've got Wentworth coming up next week. I'm sure it'd be a big prize for that. So hopefully under the radar week this week, and a better one for that.
Yep, I completely agree. And before we fist pump our way and to start talking about the Italian Open, I think for those that listen to our audio format, please feel free to subscribe on all our podcast platforms, Daily Fantasy Sports, Picks and Bets, The Mix. You can find us available on all of those. And please rate, review, subscribe. As Pat would say, smash that like button for us. It goes a really long way to continue, the support of our show here. So we are turning up to the Ryder Cup venue for 2023, Marco Simone Golf Club. So for the next time we probably see this course, Axis and myself will be there. Tom, you're more than welcome to join us. We are booking our trips to the next Ryder Cup after Whistling Straits to enjoy this course. But it's the first time we have seen it since 1994, and there has been a heavy redesign of the course. It's going to be par 71, just about 7,300 yards for the week. First looks at it, it seems that it's not as traditional of an Italian venue as what we've seen. A lot of those have been tree lined, kind of tight. This one looks like it can be a little bit more open. Potentially driver can be in play, but there is water running kind of wild, I think, on the course. Some fescue that could get in the mix if you're real errant off the tee. What are your first looks at the course?
I mean, it's strange because, it's tough when you've got a brand new course. I mean, 1994, we had Eduardo Romero won. He's a two times Crans Sierra winner. All the guys that he beat were Crans winners, and everything links to Crans, right? And when you read about the course, there's a bit of undulation in there. There are trees present, despite the fact of being a little bit more open than last week. And there's water in place, so it's tricky. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a fairly similar leaderboard to last week. I think this event generally rewards people that are in good current form anyway. And it's not a huge trip, it's a very short flight over there from Switzerland. And I think it's generally on the same sort of style of events and kind of part of the world. So it's going to be hard. It's, anything at the moment is guesswork, but I think, like I said to you earlier, you kind of just trust your numbers, trust the guys that you like. And I think it's really, really good to just look at event form. I think the Italian Open, despite constantly moving around, it's always seen repeat sort of performers. We've had Ian Poulter's won it twice on two different courses. Henny Otto's won it twice on two different courses. Fernandez Castano exactly the same as well. So they repeat performances no matter what course it's on, and that's a really good sign. I think you've got that to kind of look into. The designer is Tom Fazio's son, I believe, and he remodeled the 2019 course, Olgiata there. So, if it could be similarities to that week as well. You looked at Bernd Wiesberger beat Matthew Fitzpatrick that year. So both kind of favourites this week, and you'd kind of expect them to sit to the leaderboard as well.
Yeah, I'm still pretty tilted at the 2020 Italian Open, where I felt like the world kind of had bets on Laurie Cantor. He was very popular that week. And that electric pole that ran across the fairway that he ricocheted a ball off of into the water and ended up losing by a stroke to Ross McGowan. It's still, I don't get over that one that easily. So hopefully we get the correct bounce off of a wire in the near future. But you're exactly right with the top of the leaderboard. We have Matthew Fitzpatrick up there 14-1. Tommy Fleetwood is coming over, playing a European event to tune up before Wentworth next week. And then Bernd Wiesberger are the top three, all under 20-1. Again, how we kind of set up our model. I'm going to still be in the mid. I still consider a little bit low range if you're betting in the 20s, 30s, 40. But for me, easily going to pass on these guys up here.
I found Fleetwood pretty easy to oppose. I think when I was really on board with him in Scotland, based on his record there, and he let it down quite, not dramatically, but it was disappointing. Fitzpatrick's got his merits, but I think he was playing really, really well in America, and I think it's all geared towards what he was doing over there, and I think he's probably burnt out a little bit. No doubt he'll come back towards the end and play well at DP World Tour and things like that, but I think he may just need a little bit of a break. Wiesberger, again, like last week, I think he's very, very hard to pass up because he didn't, that bunker shot, I think he caught a pebble or something, because that wouldn't have come out like that. You don't fat shots at his level. And once that's happened and you're losing a Ryder Cup spot and you're losing a ninth European Tour title, fifth in 3 years, it gets harder to play that chip shot, and that's kind of the first time he's let himself down all week. So I tend to think that he'll just come back and contend. Callum Hill come back from disappointment, Rasmus Hoke come back to disappointment to win the next week. So everything kind of points towards him having a good week. But with all that said, again, I'm going to leave him out like I did last week.
Yep. Numbers game. And yeah, that Ryder Cup spot could have looked very different this morning had Bernd just made, a par on that last hole, gifted that victory kind of away. I mean, before we really dive into the odds board beyond that, we know we're going back to our guy, Guido. If you look at the numbers, if you think about kind of the way he's been playing off the tee, phenomenal. He continues. He led the field. He was first on Saturday overall, extremely well off the tee. Sunday, he closes with a 65. Approach numbers were kind of iffy. I guess not kind of, pretty stinky if you looked at Friday and Saturday. Sunday, his best of the week, but that boy can chip now. It's unbelievable. Every single round last week, he gained a stroke on the field in all 4 rounds. Like, that is just probably not sustainable. We'll be honest with you. We know around the green game play is not something that is going to be very consistent week to week, but it has been an elevation of his game, as we talked about all season long. And he had the opportunity to go play the Korn Ferry Tour Finals. And I thought about this a little bit more. I thought in the past the schedule was aligned where the KFT final event was the week before the Italian Open, but he's clearly making the decision to show up and play here versus try to get a tour card like his Rye, Herbert, and Schwab all did. Hopefully Bob Mack can do it this week too. But that's a big decision to make. And I think it is because this event right here is so important to him. And 28-1, I'm going in. There was no questions about it. They kind of gave us a decent number. Guido's just been playing exceptional, and I'm just going to go right back to the well.
We joked that you were going to play him if he was 9-2 or 3-1 or whatever, but I think there's two sides to that. I think there's a massive belief in his own ability that he can just go and get his PGA Tour card again next year. I think he's looked at Bob McIntyre, who's had a really, really tough spell trying to get that tour card, which you can't blame him for at all. That is the best thing to go and do. You want to get your PGA Tour card, but that is probably cost him a Ryder Cup spot unless he can play well at Wentworth next week. I think it's win or bust. And I think Guido is very much, it's weird because Italians haven't had the best success in this event. I think you look back, there's a lot of guys that really do struggle to do it on the home stage. Francesco Molinari aside, who's played it very, very well for basically his whole life. But I think Guido is of that model that can come out and just put on a show. I think that he's very well rounded. He's done it at every single event. Like you say, he's gaining strokes around the green. I said that Patrick Cantlay wouldn't be able to keep up his putting on Thursday, and he managed to gain nearly 15 strokes. So, I think Guido can probably gain 25 strokes around the greens, and we all just live happily ever after. But yeah, no, look, Guido is, we say every week, you put him up. I don't put him up, but I tell you, I can't disagree with you. And we move on because I think that he's exceptional right now. He deserves this part of the odds board. He's around the same sort of price of Henrik Stenson, who's massively improving. Matt Wallace, who I think is declining, but maybe has something up his sleeves to kind of come back at some point. And another couple of guys, good odds at sort of like 33s and bigger.
Yeah. And I mean, we knew we were going for it no matter what the number was, but yes, exactly right. I think there are compelling points for him to light it up this week in Rome. 33-1, I think, is a conundrum here for the next conversation. You mentioned Sean Crocker off the top. From the bottom of my heart, I'm rooting for Sean Crocker. No matter if I have a ticket on him or not, I do really want to see him get over the line. I think he's a great kid. He's, been pretty hard on himself. I feel like a couple times when he's, kind of blown it in contention, but the last couple of weeks, the Sundays have been, improving in the sense, 54-hole leader, last week where he definitely had the opportunity to really take it. The week before he made a run, but ultimately didn't get there. But his ball striking numbers are out of this world. 2 weeks in a row, it's gaining 3 strokes per round, and I bring back to that comment that McIntyre posted on Instagram, said who's the best ball striker on the European Tour. It's without a doubt Sean Crocker. You just need some sort of short game to pair it with. And when you're at this number, and where I'm ultimately going to lean with my next 2 selections, I just have to, in this field, rely on somebody who has that ability on Sunday, I think, to really do it. I like I said, it's going to happen for certain golfers. We've seen it with Finau. We've seen it with Bierman. We've seen it with some of these other golfers. But when last week's winner is the same exact odds, who's now crossed, 3 victories, off for him in a short European Tour stint. And he is just as good off the tee. And if I'm going to play that game this week, Rasmus gained 2.88 strokes ball striking last week. He was pretty decent at the Kazoo Classic where he finished 3rd too. I have to go back to Rasmus, in my opinion. He has put together just consecutive events. If you remember that hot run he had in the middle of last summer leading into some of the majors, we've seen him multiple times string really good events in a row. If you look at it, he went 9th, 6th. So 2 top 10s, he went 2nd, 6th, 3rd, 1st at one point, 4th, 7th, a couple weeks later, that victory did come. When we looked kind of at his challenge tour to the European Tour, he's just got the ability to stay hot. So I think looking at what I want to attack at the course off the tee, the number and how he puts things together, I'm perfectly fine going back to him relative to where Crocker's priced. So 33-1 for Rasmus going on my card.
Yeah, and I think a couple of points. So I think you spoke about Sean Crocker. I don't think that he does an awful lot wrong. I just think that at the end of the day, the thing that's going to come in under the biggest scrutiny on a Sunday is your putting. That's already his weakness, and he's trying to do that and deny him, to get himself a first win. And that's just always going to be tough, right? I think he had a lot of putts that were unlucky. I don't think they were all bad. I think that it's just that when you need to luck, the putts to drop and the luck on your side, and you're not a great putter, that's a pretty bad combination. So I think at some point it will just fall for him. Back onto Rasmus Højgaard. When you look at how he's performed immediately after wins, it's not great. But then when you go from the Mauritius Open, he won and then missed the cut of South African Open. Well, South Africa is a difficult place to play, especially if you haven't seen it before. There's a lot of variations, different grass, stuff like that. The UK Championship, he then finished 31st at Valderrama, which in isolation doesn't look a great result, but I think Valderrama again is another tough place to play. And now he's going to get a chance to go from the European Masters in Switzerland to the Italian Open, which I don't think will be a bad swap for him. So I think this is the best time for him to do it. And I think also that Wentworth could be a good spot for him. And I think that whether anybody else, I kind of posed a question earlier on Twitter, whether anyone else believes he can get into the Ryder Cup, I don't know. But he's going to have people like Thomas Bjorn, Soren Kjeldsen, just talking in his ear and trying to give him a bit of encouragement to go for that for the next couple of weeks. And I think if he was to pick up a win over the next 2 weeks, which, as you can tell, you're into these chances, he's got to be a serious consideration for Padraig Harrington.
Yeah, he'd be fun at Whistling Straits with that driver he has. And that week at Valderrama, you did trigger something in my head there. I think he had just one bad round. I believe he was almost the first round leader that week. I think he opened with 71, so he was 2 back of the first round leader, who was Guido Migliozzi that week. So, continuing down, there's a lot of conversation, I think, of a golfer who ran extremely hot on Sunday and another one who has shown the ability to win, ripping our hearts out earlier this year, beating Guido with a 60-foot bomb on 18. But Antoine Rosner, I just don't think is priced correctly relative to that sense. 40-1 seems kind of a steal for what he is and what he kind of showed on Sunday, hopefully leading into another event. So I'm definitely intrigued on him. What are your thoughts on Rosner?
Yeah, I said to Jason, I said that for me, I think there's always a fear when someone shoots a 62 or a 63 on Sunday, like both those guys did. There's a fear that you're just picking them because of that, and they vaulted up the leaderboard, and it's a what's the word? It's not a proper finish. It was kind of inflated, if you like. But to me, it's a superficial result is the word I was looking for. But to me, when you look at the numbers, he only really had 15 birdies a week, and that sounds like a lot, but to someone like Rosner, who's a guy that bunches birdies back and back and back together, I think he's actually was just a touch rusty over the first couple of days. He came out a little bit slow. He's had a lot of traveling. He's been to the PGA Tour. He's been to the Olympics. He's sort of mixed it up. And I think he just sort of grew into the week and finally found something. His ball striking sort of confirms that. And now he's kind of back to where he needs to be to succeed. And I just cannot find a negative to Anton Rosner. I don't think when you look at, I liked Callum Hill, but I thought he was too short in price. Anton Rosner's here at 40-1, similar sort of ability level. Both got winning profiles now. I think that Anton Rosner's a great price at 40-1.
Yeah, that's ultimately, again, I really don't normally stack my card in the sense with 3 bets, 40-1 or lower. And normally I'm probably win only in that scenario, perhaps catching each way with Rosner. If we can get 40s with, a good plus or top 5, but yeah, I think it's just the way I've structured my card a little bit. I feel comfortable with these guys in the mid-range. Ultimately, there's only one name that sticks out to me. However, this is where you're loading up. So I'll give you the opportunity to kind of, run through some of these guys in this mid-range that you're attacking for the week.
Yeah. So for me, the kind of first name that I really thought of and looking at the European Tour Sunday and something that I messaged you yesterday was John Catlin. I was just really surprised that he lost 4 strokes putting on Sunday. That's just abnormal for someone like John Catlin. His ball striking was very, very good. I think he was 4th in strokes gained approach. He was 1st in greens regulation, 3rd in greens regulation, 1st in driving accuracy. And I think that's a really good combination for here. We don't know exactly how it's going to play, and if it is a little bit of a bomber's paradise, that doesn't necessarily suit him. But I think when you look at the variations of leaderboards at the Italian Opens, I think he can have a good result. And again, I just think we say this quite a lot. I think he's been priced wrong. I don't think he's treated as someone that has won 2 or 3 times in quick succession and is someone that's still playing well and just had one bad round that's kind of cost him.
Yeah. I'm a really big fan of John Catlin and what he's done on, it's almost disappointment that he didn't kind of reach a win over since his last one. He felt like he was right in the mix a couple of times when we have been on him. But yeah, I think a very fair number in the scenario.
Yeah. And the other guy, I'm still not entirely sure we're going to go with him. He's someone that I always look at as a little bit undervalued because of his popularity. And I think he's a little bit unpredictable, but Andrew Johnston is He's a player that's his form's actually been slightly better than it's probably been given credit for over the last couple of months. He's played well in the Italian Open in the past. I think he was fourth here, fourth at this event in 2019, which is, as we mentioned earlier, possibly a course correlation there. I think he was great off the tee last week. I think he actually ranked first in strokes going off the tee, or up, certainly up there. And that's a really important factor here, if we're to be believed. So it's someone, again, I don't love the price, but I think he's certainly a good DraftKings play and someone that I would consider betting if the price were a little bit bigger.
Yeah, it's Beef's an interesting one to peg. He's somebody who you've seen really good off the tee numbers actually kind of recently, which I thought was pretty intriguing too. So the one that I thought was mispriced, winner of the Scottish Open leading into the Open Championship, probably somebody who is going to be a decent popular bet, it seems like this week. But Minwoo Lee, kind of in this range to me, feels, I guess it's not even in this range. She opened at 80-1. That's just ultimately for the game he has. And I wouldn't say he kind of showed up out of nowhere at the Scottish, but his lead in was 17th, 42nd, miscut. Prior to that, he wasn't all that sensational either. But last week was a little bit in that sneaky sense too, where we'll talk about another golfer. If you throw one of their rounds out, they're right there in the thick of things. I always think that's an interesting kind of analysis to do, is who we talked about this multiple times, but who would have been there, say their worst round was even par, or, who would have that benefited if, they didn't decide to shoot a 78 one of the days. I know that's nothing you can't just simply throw away. Yeah, potentially. But, Min Woo ended up finishing T21 with a 74 on Saturday. So, that really is an underlying, kind of negative to what that finish could have been. He could have easily been in the places and saw this number be in the 40s. So I'm happy to go back to Min Woo Lee at this number. I think 70s is more than fair. I'm seeing that too. But that number is quickly depreciating. I would be remiss if we didn't discuss another golfer who seems to be getting some steam too. Do you have any thoughts on Frankie Molinari?
I do, and I think that his approach numbers were great last week, and that's really really important. I think he was 31st, was he last week, which is fine. He's working his way back. Early start of the 2021, he was in great form on the PGA Tour, and it looked like he'd kind of settled after a big move over to California. And I just wonder, there's going to be two ways it's going to happen. Francesco Molinari is, we're going to get to the end of the week and he's going to win, and everyone's going to go, how on earth was Francesco Molinari, former major champion, 50-1 in his home open that he's won twice before and always finishes really, really well? Or you're going to get that he should have been 80-1 because he's playing out of form. And you just don't know. I think is the easiest thing to say with him. I think that, I don't know, you don't want to second guess people, but he's probably been away from Italy for a long time, probably has a lot of obligations, a lot of catching up to do with people. Maybe that's a bit distracting. Maybe he's just going to enjoy being home and then go over to Wentworth and maybe perform a little bit better there. So tough, really, really tough to get a handle on. I think that if it had been a course that he'd played anywhere before, I'd probably be a little bit more intrigued by him. But I think because it's new to him as well as it is everybody else, and he's gone from kind of 50s down to the 35 number straight away. I thought 50 was big enough, but I think the kind of 35-1 is probably about right and enough to leave alone.
Yeah. Yep, I'm with you there. I think Wentworth could be intriguing too next week. I think that more style of course, obviously he's been successful there too. So hopefully he can be under the radar in a sense and see a similar number. For me, where I dip into the triple digits now for the next one. I'll start. I'm not betting, but if we think about the Italian Open, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about also, Guido's roommate, Renato Peratore, who also had a very strong top 10 finish last week. Peratore, where I jump off him is those off the tee numbers are really bad. Last week, if you look at that, he's losing multiple strokes per round in some scenarios, making it up with the irons, which is, encouraging. But if it's going to be something where we think off the tee needs to be in line to succeed, Renato gets left off of my card. But we do see another golfer who, like Minwoo Lee, had one poor round last week, but has some encouraging correlation finishes. Also was in the mix last time at the Italian Open. Talk us through the process for why both of us are on Nicolas Colsaerts for the week.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's back-to-back tied 18 finishes, which again, in isolation to itself, doesn't seem great. You know, it's not massive. The Colsaerts is used to winning tournaments, winning the Ryder Cup, etc., etc. But he loves the Italian Open. Like, he was second here behind Ross McGowan last year. You know, I think he's had 3 top 5s before that. And he just likes this part of the world. His approach numbers have been a lot better. We don't entirely know, you know, how the course is going to fit. And with Minwoo Lee, I imagine you're probably thinking that if it does, you know, suit the Bombers and it does allow to open up and driving, that's going to suit him. And again, people will think that about Colsaerts, but I just like the fact that no matter where the course is that he's played, he's generally played the event well. And I think that, you know, as I spoke about off the top, when you don't know too much about the course and what the prospects of it being, I think it's just very important to look at Italian Open form. And Colsaerts has got it. He's played very, very well in this part of the world. You know, he grew up down the road, and you know, relatively speaking. So for me, yeah, I just really like his profile and how he does in this event.
He did similar too at the Kazoo Open, where one poor round was kind of what held him back, shooting a 73 on Friday, which there was only 3 rounds of guys who were in the top 20, only 3 rounds of 73 or worse. So again, held back by one hole or one round. So I guess in the past instances, I think it was one hole last week where he had a quadruple bogey on Friday. Yeah, I'm definitely in on Colsaerts with you there. Now, for me, we're going to go into some deep, 1,500 to 1 shots here shortly. I'm back to the well. So, you have a little bit of a list of other names that stuck out to you down here. So can you go through the remaining guys that you're kind of intrigued by?
Yeah, I mean, the guy that, you talk up an awful lot, and someone that I thought you were going to pick really was Daniel Van Tonder. His approach play was good last week. He generally is pretty good off the tee. That's as an asset of his. I personally left him out because I think there may be a bit more in terms of accuracy than something that he's used to. I think he's better when he can just open the shoulders and go for it. But he has proven to us that he can do it in several different spots. Done it last week, and that's a good pointer to this. So I thought that the 110 to 1 or around about that price was pretty big for a player of his skill set. And again, like Parator as well, if they have a bad week the week before or miss out and fall down the leaderboard, they tend to bounce back like Hill and Hogarth did. So that's good for Parator if you wanted to look at him. Nacho Elvira was a guy that I think is not getting an awful lot of love for his recent win. He's played pretty well since then. His approach play has been fine. He's at a 3rd place finish in this in 2016. And again, not someone I've got a huge amount of confidence in. I actually prefer Colsaerts as a bet, as a selection in every way possible. But I just think that Elvira has been slightly overlooked. Was it 4 starts ago that he won that event in Wales? And okay, it took him extra holes, and he wasn't entirely convincing. But this is the European Tour; not many people are on Sundays at the moment. So. I thought there was plenty enough in that price, and again, probably a good DraftKings play. And the final guy for me was Oliver Wilson. He's coming into a part of the schedule now, and I've actually put him in my ones to watch for the newsletter because he's had I think it's a 35th and a 21st, so he's gone close in recent weeks. He improved pretty much from the off last week. His approach play is good at the moment, and he's now coming to an event. He's finished second in the Italian Open. He's finished second at Wentworth, and he's also won the Dunhill Links. It's the only event he's ever won on the European Tour. So he's going into a really important part of the year for him. He's very, very inconsistent. His off the tee game is dreadful at times. It's been did an interview with him before, and he basically had the driving yips. There was no 2 ways about it. But yeah, I think he's a guy that really does think about past success at golf courses, past success in areas, and focus on that. And his wins have come in August and October, getting to that part of the year where he feels comfortable. If there's anything in those biorhythms that sort of suggests that he can play well, then I thought it was a really, really big price. I think he's at least a good DraftKings play. I don't quite know what price he is, but I imagine he's in the low 6s there somewhere. So I think he's worth looking at.
Yeah, if you look, DraftKings actually just dropped their contest, so we actually have a $12 entry fee with 5,000 to first, which is exciting. Hopefully, we can kind of pump that up and fill it quickly, so we can see a big one for Wentworth next week. So if you look, Oliver Wilson is $6,400, so quite a value there. Nikolai Kolsarts is actually only $6,800, so I think that is a steal as well. So we'll play our in or out game, Tom, now that they drop the salaries and time, before I kind of get into the super punts. But we'll start. So again, only the 6Ks here. How about Francesco's brother, Eduardo Molinari, 6,900?
No.
Okay. Wilco Nienaber, 6,800.
No.
Luke Donald, 6,800. You couldn't pick more opposite golfers.
I'd like to see it. No.
Tapio Pokinen, $6,800.
Yes.
Okay. Man, there's been some guys that have really fallen from high prices. Let's see. Garrick Porteous, $6,700. Would you go back?
I don't want to mention that name anymore.
That's fair. Let's see here. Nino Bertazio, $6,700.
Yeah, why not? I said too many names.
Let's keep going. It's a little bit thinner than I imagined down here. Sebastian Soderberg, $6,600.
Yes.
He was okay last week. Came out kind of hot. Yeah. Alfaro Quiros, $6,500.
No.
Okay. How about how cheap is Sammy Valimaki? $6,400 this week.
This is the guy that I thought you were going to bring up, and I'm going to say yes. I think at some point he's going to bounce back and do it. He's hit the ball well at times, and 6,400 is frightening.
We're getting to those odds in which he won the Oman Open. You know,
yeah,
I wouldn't have ever guessed we saw 275 to 1 again on him.
And is that because he's actually just not very good, or is that just because he's going through a rough patch? It's really hard to know. Because he came out and he did it so quick and it was really, really impressive, and he looked at prior success, because he had such a short professional career and he'd won very early and then he'd done it again, you kind of thought, that's it, he's here to stay. And there was this finish flash and he was going to be out of there. And it's really tough to know, isn't it? It's really, really tough to know. And I'm hoping that he does bring it back. And we've seen a lot of guys just fall down to these part of, of the pricing. And yeah, I think what this says here is that you probably need to focus at the higher end of the DraftKings salaries this week, because there's not a lot down there. I mean, David Law was someone I was picking for an awful lot of time. Schwan Kim is someone we've been really happy on. 6,800 there. Ross McGowan, I mean, he was 500 to 1 last week and nearly won the whole thing. So he's 6,600 and a defending champion. So David Horsey's had some really good event results in the Italian Open. So yeah, I think that there's plenty to like in there. It's just, you got to be very selective.
Yeah, there's two more that I talk about at $6,400. Haven't seen this golfer in what feels like forever, but he used to have lights out irons, and one of Ryan Baroff's favorite golfers out here, Joel Schlahom. There's no way. Is that how I pronounce it? Schlahom?
I think it's Scholm, but I don't know.
I like Schlahom a little bit more. So
I think he dresses like a Schlahom.
For sure. Absolutely. Takes that little boat to the island too. When he kind of hit that ball over there. And then the other one that I'm very intrigued on, Adrian Sadier at 6,400. He had an exceptional week tee to green last week, especially those final 54 holes.
Yeah, he was absolutely superb. Really, really just struck it great. I think his approach was plus 8.449, just behind Sean Crocker there. And then tee to green overall, he was nearly 12 strokes. So that can't be ignored. I mean, he's a guy that I think he can get hot and stay hot for a little while. Don't think there's much winning upside, but I think he's someone that we can pencil in and try and, if you want to do a stars and scrubs, he's a good guy to pencil in.
Yeah, I agree. So, okay, we've reached the Italian amateur section of our show here. So I'm going to talk through 3 golfers for us. One, I was searching through events that have ever happened at this golf course. Happened to come across a November juniors event where Filippo Celli happened to be our victor at this event. You spell that last name Celli. I think I pronounced that correct.
I think that was spot on. I thought you were Italian.
You know, you kind of tell a little bit here. But so if you kind of look, he's got a decent, so a lot of these guys, you know, they are either making their professional kind of jump in there, or they're receiving a national spot as they go. So Celli, he is finished second at the Italian Am stroke play not that long ago. Did play in the Challenge Tour, where this is the Italian Challenge, I think 3 weeks ago, end of July, and played there. Had an okay college year, nothing great. So he would be the lowest kind of on the totem pole. But again, you're going to get these guys at the bare minimum. It should be, let's make sure, $6,100. So he's one that I would jump off the top, but the two that I'm definitely going to be searching out for top 20 bets this week. I mean, 1,500 to 1, I'm definitely going to have a shekel or two. I have so much in the bank to be able to play with these guys. Like I mentioned, we've 1,500. I think I've gotten 5 wrong this year. So 1,495 to go, Tom. You have a long time to deal with me on these long shots. So we're still
I'm
okay.
Excited. I mean, it's been at least 2 or 3 weeks since we've had this kind of slot here. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So we go into let's see, Gregorio De Leo. Wow, I didn't even realize that rhymed. Gregorio De Leo. So he comes off a second place finish last week at the Gazer Open, which is on the Alps Tour. He also did play the Italian Challenge, made the cut there. But his claim to fame, I'd say, is this year he has won the Italian International Amateur early on in March. And then at the Italian Amateur Match Play. So the way they do it, kind of similar to the US Match Play or USAM, where they go into and they play 36 holes of stroke play, and then they go into their match play. So he ended up getting knocked out in the Elite 8 there. However, he was winning the stroke play. Again, 36 holes. He was winning by 9 strokes through 36 holes. So this kid just put a shellacking on the rest of the field. Unfortunately, didn't get through the match play, but 1,500 to 1 we see for him. And then also, let's see, De Leo, the price has just dropped, 6,100 again. So we can play him. Now, my favorite fancy of them all, Giovanni Manzoni. All-time name. Say that one more time. Giovanni Manzoni. That's as good as it gets, Tom.
That's a soccer player right there. You know, that is, you know, they've just won the European Championships, much at the England's expense. But yeah, that is definitely a footballer. I wouldn't be surprised if he did play football for at least 10 years of his life.
So what we've seen out of our man Manzoni the last couple of weeks, second place as well in the there was a Swiss Golf Am event, I think last week that he played in, second there. The week before, this is, I think, you know, I guess he played the Italian Am stroke play where he finished 8th there as well. But on the Italian Challenge Tour, so again, he's making leaps playing as an amateur, finished inside the top 10 on the Challenge Tour. Very impressive. Also, the only other OWGR event that he did play this in 2021, he finished second at the Alps Tour. So again, 2 for 2 on top 10s for Manzoni this year on the OWGR sanctioned events. And I always feel there's just some type of player in these home opens that makes a run at it. I always think of, it would have been the Spanish Open, Samuel Del Val almost gave John Rahm a run for his money that week. We also saw the Italian Open 2 years ago where, I guess relatively unknown at the time, but Francesco Laporta ended up with a very strong finish too, while he wasn't on the European Tour just yet. So 2 names, you know, kind of popped up like that. So I think running through, it's always worth, especially on DraftKings, where you can play them at the minimum and we can kind of stack that top where we really like those. Manzoni's $6,000 this week. So I'm going to be differentiating my lineups that way, trying to take down 5K on DraftKings. But that kind of puts a bow on my kind of week. So I think, Tom, if we run through your card from the top.
Yeah, so it's John Catlin for me. I think he's there about 60 to 1. Andrew Johnson, I'm going to look at a little bit more. Same with Daniel Van Tonder at kind of 66 and 110 to 1 respectively there. Nacho Elvira, 100 to 1. I think he's been overlooked. Nicholas Colsart's not sure on the price that you had over there in the end, but I think it's probably about 150 to 1 he was here earlier. And Oliver Wilson was 300 to 1. I just think him for maybe a top 20, and certainly in DraftKings, he's worth putting in.
Yep, absolutely. Guido Migliazzi, 28 to 1 for me starting off. Push the chips in there, of course. Rasmus Højgaard, you can find him 33s. I think that's very good. I would even be happy with him 28 still. Antoine Rosner, 35 to 40 to 1. I'm cool with that number down there if he gets a little bit of steam. Your point with Colsarts, I think, is very fair. The price has gone down across the board. I still found a 150 just before we got on the show here. So he opened 170 stateside, but 150, 125s, I think, is incredibly fair for a selection we have as a consensus. And then our two Italian AMs, Giovanni Manzoni and Gregorio De Leo, we have them both at 1,500 to 1. Sounds like a reverse exacta for me this week to buy a yacht. So looking forward to getting some T20 numbers on both of those guys. Let's have an Italian Open, Tom. I'm excited for the week.
I feel like if they win, even just come in the top 5, you're going to have to open like an Italian restaurant over there in Florida and just name them after them. It's going to have to happen. And then just get Dave Portnoy to go and review the pizza and game on.
That's the roadmap for us.
T-shirts is ready. I'm ready to take over the world.
Yes. Amen. You can come. I mean, if we just get Guido, if we get one of these Italian boys to win this week, I mean, this will go. I still think Guido's got Ryder Cup in him. He wins here. He gets in contention for Wentworth. That last spot could be wide open. I really think so.
I think the problem is I kind of think that either Podrick Harrington wants Wiesberger or Perez to just take their last automatic spot so we can pick Lowry. Yep. And it's Lowry, Poulter, and Garcia. Yep. Or he just wants Justin Rose to just make it really easy for him and go in with Wentworth. Yep. And then he just picks those 3 guys. Because I think if he's left with picking between Wiesberg, Højgaard, McIntyre, Guido, and anybody he picks from that range that doesn't perform is just going to get hounded for not picking someone else. Whereas I think that someone like Justin Rose, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Henry Stenson's flying back up there as well now. So just that's the mix. Alex Noren, missed out heartbreaking last week. Yeah, it's a really, really tough spot. I think it's open to anyone. So I think that, and the fact that they're 2 big events, it's the Italian Open and the BMW PGA Championship. And we saw in 2010, Eduardo Molinari won events very close to Europe, not back to back, but 2 events near the time. Things can change. Rasmus Højgaard could get himself on that team with a win this week, I think. So maybe a bit early at 20 years old, but certainly exciting.
Yep, absolutely. And we also have the Solheim Cup this week, which I'm excited for over here in Toledo. So root on the ladies. So I'm excited to watch that this week as well. But that'll put a bow on our show for the week. Good luck, everybody, and enjoy the Italian Open.